This podcast is recorded in front of a live studio audience and a live set of 22 footballers.
Side 1 is calm, non-abusive, although highly fragmented. Side 2 is schizophrenic.
It's going down. I'm yelling timber. You better move. You better dance.
Giggity.
Let's make a night.
Yeah, bitch,
You won't remember. I'll be the one. You won't forget.
He's a lumberjack and he's okay. He sleeps all night and he works all day.
I cut down trees where he'll suspend his underbra. I wish I'd been a girlie, just like my dear papa.
Hello and welcome to episode 66 of There's Still Time, the AFTN podcast. I'm Michael McCall.
And I'm Steve Pander.
I'm Aaron Campbell.
And I'm Jay Duke.
And we're going to bring you a special Cascadia Cup preview show from another Cascadia derby. Yep, we're recording this live during the Vancouver Whitecaps under-23 Kitsap Pumas under-23 match at Percy Perry Stadium on Wednesday night. So the first Cascadian derby of this season, controversial end as we discussed in the post-game show on Saturday. Now that you've had a couple of days to think about it, guys, any difference of opinion as to how you think the game went? Any different opinion on the penalty situation?
No, it was pretty BS.
Quite short and succinct from Jay Duke there. I know people are taking it, like showing this stop image picture and trying to make something out of it, but remember, we have no idea where the ball is. I still think Cam Weaver wasn't even trying to jump, and Jay Duke just happened to land on him after he headed the ball out. So that, Jay DeMerit headed the ball out.
Because I can guarantee if Jay Duke was like jumping for that ball, there would have been no penalty or arms on any shoulders.
Yeah, there would have been no jumping for the ball in the first place. So.
True. You would have been a bit like Nigel Reo-Coker for that first goal.
So that was Jay DeMerit. Jay DeMerit would have headed the ball out, and it would have been no issues at all. Unfortunately, he did get his hands out. He could have controlled it a little bit better, but overall, I think it should have been a 2-1 victory for Vancouver. Maybe even if they had finished earlier in the game, it wouldn't even have come to that.
Yeah, I mean, the photo that was doing the rounds, if you haven't seen it yet, check out the AFTN Canada Twitter. We put it out late on Saturday night, early Sunday morning, something like that. Still could be doctored. When I look at the photograph and then I look at the actual play, I'm not really sure at what stage that photograph was taken, but it does show DeMerit's hands on Weaver's shoulder. But as I said at the time, I would like to see some of the stills before, some of the stills after it, just to kind of see what that was all about. But Aaron, I mean, a couple of days since the game's passed, looking back at it now, what's your view on it? Do you see it as 2 points lost for the Whitecaps, or the way that the signings have been going this season, do you think it was a credible draw in the end? Penalty decision apart.
Well, first of all, with the penalty, my biggest thing is I only thought it was called a penalty because it was DeMerit who jumped. If it would have been Andy O'Brien, Jordan Harvey, same play, I don't think it would have been called. I think it's DeMerit's reputation for sometimes playing a little too rough when he doesn't have to be. It's definitely 2 points lost for us, so we should have won that game. We're in great position to win the game. It's kind of sad that one blown call, cost us 2 points.
I don't know if it's a coincidence, but it just seems funny to me that the referee had the same last name as the DeMerit's neighbors had, so I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but it just seems fishy to me.
Now, I think I actually said in the post-game show that I never heard of this referee. I read a little bit about him, that he'd given something like 8 red cards in 28 matches, but it subsequently turned out he was actually a nominee for the 2013 Referee of the Year in MLS, which really surprised me. What I found most interesting about it is there's until this photograph surfaced, there was very few of anyone, even Sounders fans, that thought it was a penalty. DeMerit on Monday at training was still adamant that it wasn't a penalty, and he didn't want to say too much about it. He didn't want to really make any comments and make it worse. So we'll draw a line under that now. So before we finish talking about Saturday's game, there was of course that one big burning question from the game, and I'm glad to say that AFTN, with our hard-hitting questions, secured the scoop, and Kyle Robinson gave us the definitive answer to the burning question from Saturday. And the big question from Saturday, two guys in front of me wanted to know, was it mochaccino or sandstone?
See, I was the only one, man.
Seriously, they had that discussion on Saturday.
Well, listen, it's good if they're talking about it, because the last time I wore a jumper at Columbus, someone slaughtered me for wearing a red jumper and brown shoes, and I thought, right, I'll go safe. I'll go white shirt, I'll go beige jumper.
I said beige.
Beige with a blue tie and blue trousers, but you can't win one. Maybe I'll just go tracksuit next time.
Cheers. So as we said, another Cascadia derby coming up this coming weekend against Portland. Before we look ahead to that, I want to play a little bit of audio that I put together last week. I'd hoped to put this in the podcast on Saturday, but we kind of ran out of time editing wise. It was quite a long podcast as it was. But I spoke to a few of the Whitecaps players last week just to get a feel of what it's like to play in these Cascadian derbies, what it means to them as a player, and for some of the guys that's played in the derbies in Europe, just what the biggest games they've played in over there and how it compares, and what the big derby matches were for the teams that they were with. So let's hear a little bit of audio now from Jordan Harvey, David Ousted and Jay DeMerit.
Like I said, it's like a playoff atmosphere. You can feel the support, the energy from the fans, and it's always one that we want to win for them. And the Cascadia Cup, that's some hardware that we want to keep.
You've played in a few of these Cascadian derbies now. How, as a player, how do you find the whole occasion, the atmosphere and everything like that?
It's great. There's a lot of things going on, both on and off the field. The fans are really into it, and just coming into a BC place that has that kind of atmosphere is just something that really wants to make you play and wants to make you compete. So we're looking forward to these games every time they're there, and just enjoy them.
And back in Europe, what was the biggest derby game that you played in there?
I had a couple of small ones, not as many people as we have here. I've tried a couple, but this is definitely one of the bigger ones. And just last year in Seattle and Portland was great experiences for me. So I'm looking forward to getting into BC Place and having that experience as well.
You've played in a lot of these Cascadian derbies now. What's it like to be out there on the pitch?
It's amazing, it really reminds you, obviously playing overseas for many years, you get that full atmosphere of that constant hum of chants, that full kind of intensity that comes with the rivalry, and that only rivalry games seem to create. So I think these Cascadia games remind me a lot of that. Both sets of fans are very passionate about their clubs, and that's what we want. That's what we're trying to build here in North America and in the MLS. And there's no better example than the Cascadia rivalry. So to be on that field and to see and hear the noise that creates it's a special time. And I think that has to be one of the things that lights the fire underneath you to go and try to perform well in these games.
And at Watford, what was the big derby game that got you up?
Any of the London teams. Luton was our big rival, but Luton didn't. He was only in the same league as us for one season. But any of the London teams, West Ham was a big one. Millwall, anytime Chelsea came to town was a big one too. Any of the London derbies, Reading, anything in and around there was a good derby. That's great.
So the Cascadia derbies certainly get the players excited, certainly get the fans excited. And one of the things which I think we're going to see now is everyone focuses on the Seattle-Portland game as being like the key Cascadia derby. But I think now the 4-1 game in Seattle, and then what happened on Saturday with the penalty and everything like that, and even the last couple of games that BC plays between the Sounders and Vancouver, I think this Vancouver-Seattle rivalry is really, really starting to grow and be something special.
Yeah, it certainly is, but that really, you have to admit that Seattle-Portland, I mean, their rivalry goes beyond just the two soccer teams. It's the cities, it's the Pacific Northwest in the U.S., so it's always going to be tough for Vancouver to, outside of Vancouver, be a valued as valued a part of that rivalry as everybody else. The only way that we can get to that level is by consistently winning and consistently beating these guys. And if for 2, 3, 4 years, if we go on a string here, if we win the Cascadia Cup this year, which we could do, or we're certainly better than Portland right now, and obviously we got a shout at beating Seattle. If we win the Cascadia Cup a couple years in a row, they're both going to turn their hatred towards Vancouver, and that can only be a good thing. And that's how Vancouver is going to be that much hated rival in the South.
I totally agree with you. The Seattle and Portland, right now, the Seattle-Portland rivalry is so intense that each of them would, if they had a chance, would burn their stadiums, steal their women, and rape their horses. No doubt in my mind.
Well, to be fair, there are some cute horses in Portland. But, I mean, it has felt the last couple of years that Vancouver's almost like the ginger stepkid. We're kind of on the outside, don't quite fit in. But I think that's changing, and I mean, it can only be for the good. And it's actually something that I asked Carl Robinson on Monday at training if he thought that this was now going to be a little bit more magical. So here's what Carl had to say about that. A lot's always made of like Seattle-Portland rivalry, but with a 4-1 game now in Seattle and what happened on Saturday, do you think like this Seattle-Vancouver one's really, really brewing to be
special?
Massive,
yeah, I really do, and I want it to be. It's important for us as a club, it's important for us as a group of players, and it's important for the supporters because, we want to play in games that mean something every week. And obviously it's a little bit special when you play Seattle and you play Portland, and I think on Saturday it was, everyone went away from the game. I was disappointed, probably the most disappointed person, in the stadium, but a lot of people went away and very happy, knowing that we put on a very good performance. We didn't get the result, but I said we're in the early stages of what I'm trying to set out at this club, and I said all along it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in 3 months, and you probably won't see the full fruition of it in 12 months. It's going to take a period of time for it to grow, but the signs are there that we're going in the right direction.
So, what's past is past. Let's look ahead now to Sunday's big match against Portland Timbers. And it's going to be another noisy and packed Providence Park, unless they change the name of it before Sunday, which nothing would surprise me. They've gone through more names than Ziggy Schmidt's gone through hot dinners. So Steve, big game coming up on Sunday. What's your thoughts leading up to this?
I think it's important for them to keep their momentum. The Whitecaps are right now, I think, undefeated in the last 5 games. It's MLS games at least. It should be a good test for them. Portland is starting to find their mojo back. They won their second game of the year, and in actuality, they're not that far off because instead of losing a lot of games, they drew a lot of games this year. So it should be an interesting game. Obviously, any Cascadia game is going to be action-packed.
Yeah, I'm not so confident that Portland is necessarily regaining their form. There was just on Twitter, Portland Timbers official Twitter account tweeted out some stuff about how they've had the most PK calls against them, like 8 this year, and the most over the last 2 years by a wide margin or something like that. And it's because Portland's defense is just so terrible. Their backline is atrocious, and especially with the soccer gods hopefully looking up on the Whitecaps fondly after the terrible call on Jay DeMerit. We're sure due to have some action in and around the Portland Timbers box. So I think it's a good matchup for the Whitecaps, even though they're on the road. Our midfield has looked strong enough that we should be able to pretty easily at least compete with Will Johnson and Diego Chara. So I think it's going to be a good match. I think it'll be close just because it's a Cascadia derby and all that. But you have to like the Whitecaps' chances with their attacking form lately and the back line of the Timbers.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Jay on that. The Timbers defense this year hasn't been that good. I was looking earlier, Donovan Ricketts in 10 games this year, he has no clean sheets, only has 2 wins, so it'll be great for the Caps to get a nice early goal. Keep the playing to their level, don't play down to Portland, keep their running gun style going, and we should have a great chance to win.
Now, one of the things that the Whitecaps players were talking about in training this week is a lot of teams and a lot of players, they go to Portland and they find it an intimidating atmosphere. But the Whitecaps guys, they don't see it as intimidating as a lot of the other teams, and part of the reason for that is that they spent a whole week down there in pre-season. They're comfortable with the city, they're comfortable with the atmosphere, they're comfortable with the pitch because they trained on the pitch and they played some games on the pitch. They were undefeated for that whole Rose City Invitational tournament. So the guys do feel confident down there, which might seem a little bit strange because the Whitecaps have never actually won a game in Portland in MLS action. And I think Portland are going into this, they're unbeaten at home in something like 21 games as well. So looking at that on paper, it does look like it's going to be hard for the Whitecaps to get anything. My gut feeling is it will be a draw, but I do think the fact that Portland are going to be playing 3 games over the space of 9 days, they are going to be tired. They're going from coast to coast. They played New York on Saturday, they're playing Chivas on Wednesday night. So there's going to be a lot of tiredness there, and that will play into it. And if you've got some young guys like Matix and Hurtado and Kikuta Mane running at you, whether Matix starts or not, or whether he comes off the bench, it's like they're going to be running at this Portland defence for a lot of the games, so that there's a lot. So they're basically going to put them under a lot of pressure, and I think that this could be a fast-paced game, and I think there's going to be a lot of goals. So let's just have a quick chat about the Caps lineup. What changes, Jay, would you make from the team that drew on Saturday?
Well, when you look at it, I mean, if you're Robinson, the team did everything that you. When you look at the. I'll wait till this is over.
Great comment.
When you look at the result against Seattle, the performance was there. I don't know why there's any need to change it. They got something like 25 shots on net. I was yelling at the players to get some shots on net. That's the only thing that put it on frame is the only thing that you could really complain about. But I think that's just something that'll come. So if you're Robinson, why go with anybody else? Hurtado had another fantastic game. So how can you take him out and put Maddox in, even especially coming off the injury? The only person that you might want to consider moving out is Mane, who kind of drifted in and out of the game a little bit. So if anybody, that's the one player you can look to move.
I still stand by. I wouldn't make too many changes, but I still would like to see Russell Tiber get into the lineup. I think, obviously not as a holding midfielder, I think the Laba and Kofi are really solid and set there. But I'd like to see Russell on the right side in front of Rio Coker, helping him out so we're not, there's a risk of, because Portland is a little bit of a different dimensions for a park, so you're worried about Rio Coker getting caught up or something like that. So I'd like to see Russell there in order to help him out and be more of a defensive help to the right side of the midfield.
Yeah, I wouldn't make any changes to the lineup either. The lineup didn't lose the last game. The lineup more than won the last game. We just got screwed on a BS call. You really can't break up the back four, They played pretty solid defensively. And Kofi and Laba have been great together, so you wouldn't want to break them up. Up front, Morales, Fernandez, Mane struggled a bit last game, but I'd give him the start again. And of course, Hurtado up top. If Maddox isn't tired from traveling from Switzerland straight to Portland on Saturday, maybe get him a good 30-minute run at the end of the game. But other than that, I would keep the same lineup from last game.
Now the thing with Matix is he played on Monday. Carroll actually said on training on Monday there was a whole risk v reward aspect with Matix, and that was why he didn't play him in the game on Saturday. And he'd actually said to the Jamaican Federation that he really preferred if they didn't use him in Monday's match, but then of course he played 45 minutes. He's playing in Lucerne in Switzerland on Friday and then flying straight to Portland after that on the Saturday, so they're wanting to see what shape he's in. They're glad that he's getting minutes with the Jamaican national team, but I think it's going to be hard to see him actually start the game. The one change, I do kind of agree with Steve, the one change I would really want to make is probably putting Russell Tybert in for Fernandez, who I just didn't think had that good a game, and then Russell's defensive play is going to really help Nigel back there, because I mean, Nigel, he looked a little bit fitter, he looked a little bit sharper, but there's a number of times he just didn't seem to have the legs. Obviously he can't jump either, but I think that would maybe be my only change. I would probably keep an unchanged lineup apart from that. So just before we wrap up this episode, let's have a quick once round the team, and let's get your predictions for the game on Sunday. Let's start with Jay.
Pretty bullish on the Whitecaps right now. I think that they're in form right now, and going against a backline they can take advantage of. And for the first time since they've joined the MLS, the Whitecaps have a midfield that can go toe-to-toe with pretty much any team out there. So I'm going to predict a Whitecaps win. I'm going to say it's going to be a exciting game, like Michael says. I'm going to say 3-1 Whitecaps.
So Aaron, what's your prediction for Sunday?
I got two ironclad sources I can't name that says it'll be a 2-1 Whitecaps win.
Steve?
It'll probably come down to one of our most important players on the pitch, and that's Matias Lava. Will he be able to control what Diego Valeri does on the pitch? Can he shut him down like he shut down other guys like Higuain in the past and other players? And what can Kofi do and help out in negating Nagbe? I think if those two things happen, I think they will get goals, and I think it's a 2-0 win for Vancouver.
So yeah, I think it will be an exciting game. I think there will be goals. I think the Whitecaps will get 2. And Portland, I can see also getting 2, maybe just 1. A lot's going to depend on how quick out the blocks the Whitecaps go. What I like about the Whitecaps team just now is it doesn't matter if you mark Hurtado out of the game, you've got Manny. If you mark Manny out of the game, there's Matix, there's Morales, there's Kofi now. There's just so much of an attacking threat. It's just really exciting. I think it will be a draw. I'm going to go for 2-2. But I'm also going to hedge my bets and say that if Portland get off to a slow start, then it's going to be a 2-1 Whitecaps win. Either way, it's going to be another Cascadia Cup classic, and I for one can't wait. I'm heading down there, and I'll hopefully bring out maybe just a mini podcast with some post-game stuff after the match. So that's it for another episode of There's Still Time. We're not sure how this is going to sound.
Oh no, the music's starting.
It's the final whistle, as you can hear in the background there. So let's just see where we can find everyone online. Jay?
I am at JAY_Duke on Twitter and writing for CSN.
And Aaron, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at AACamp81. That's AACAMP81. Also writing for AFTN Canada on Canada Soccer News.
Steve?
You can find me on Twitter at WhitecapsBeat. And of course I'm writing for CSN and Canadian Soccer News as well.
Just not very often. And I'm Michael McCall. You can find me online at AFTN Canada. Read all our stuff on AFTN on Canadian Soccer News. And you can also read my stuff. I'm the Whitecaps beat reporter for MLSsoccer.com, and you can read my stuff on Soccerly.com. So we've got a Cascadian derby coming up at the weekend. Lots to look forward to. I say we hope to bring you some post-game stuff after that match. But until then, thanks for listening. Hope you're able to hear it okay. Take care, and mon the Caps.
One day I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back. Until then, there must be no regrets, no tears, no anxieties. Just go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine.